Good evening and welcome. It's Monday, August 12th. The Olympics are done. Boy, that was a long event in Paris. But I'm not here to talk about the Olympics. I'm here to welcome you first to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace. I'm here to fight the child protection system and stop taking our children. Stop taking our children. It seems they want to do that, rightly so. Now, notice that we have Terry Lewis, who came on to the podcast before we got started at 9:08 a.m. That was this morning. That's my other podcast, Terry. I don't know if you're still in the room or not. She asked a question. Is CPS required to give you a pamphlet regarding parental civil rights? I am the great aunt of the children. They came to my house and took them at 10:30 at night. Well, I don't know how they would take your children unless they had a court order or you allowed them to. And you said they had no paperwork, so they didn't have a warrant. Anyway, if you're still here, I would love to help you out, Terry, and talk about your the children that were taken there. Anyway, before I start taking phone calls, I like to talk about 4 ways you can interact with this podcast. And I'd like to get that done first before I start taking phone calls. Now, one of the first ways you interact with this podcast is to be in this room, be a listener, take notes, and learn what you can that will help out your child protection system case. Now, what I mean by child protection system, I'm talking about the branch of social services, and it's responsible for protecting our children through abuse and neglect. It was created by Congress, and social services is the main part of this branch of child protection system. So please understand that these are nothing more than social workers, and I hate to say it, the child protection system broke. They're very corrupt, they're not transparent, and they certainly do not know how to do family reunification, which they're supposed to. Now, as you listen, let's say you want to say a comment. Well, yeah, you can go ahead and make comments. And comments, you just text them in. Now, I'm broadcasting on YouTube. I'm using the StreamYard application, and you found me on Facebook. So when you type in a comment or a question, make sure it pertains to the CPS. There's a lot of subjects we can talk on, but we want to stick with the child protection system. Now, please show your name, city, state, or country. And you're probably saying country. Yes, we are international because Facebook is seen around the world, and people from other countries are trying to fight CPS, and they come to my room, and that's my whole. I'm a loving parent, a father, who unfortunately got caught up with the CPS child trafficking that they do. And I want to help out other parents. I care about you as parents. I know what you're going through. I've been there. And they seem to prey on people that are going through hard times, low income, not very well educated, and at the end of their ropes about life. And that's a horrible feeling to be at because raising kids is not easy. There's no book. You're not born with a book that tells you how to date or how to raise kids or how to make babies or anything else. That it used to be in high school, they had things called life skills where you would learn about the facts of life, where you learn about drugs and alcohol and smoking. They don't do that anymore. In fact, they don't even, you used to carry a pillow around, I remember in high school, to see what it felt like having a baby. Having a baby is a big responsibility. Having a family is, and it involves both parents. And what CPS does is that they become a $1 trillion business now, $1 trillion business. That's a lot of money. It doesn't take that much money to raise a child, $1 trillion. Now, when the countries that have texted in, there have been about 13 of them. I've heard from Bangladesh. I've heard from several countries I also heard from New Delhi, India, which is near Bangladesh. Then over to the continent of Africa, I've heard from several countries there. One was a province in South Africa. Another one was Mozambique, above South Africa on the east coast, opposite Madagascar, the island off the coast there. Another one was Rwanda, who is near Lake Victoria in Central East Africa. They had a terrible tragedy in 94. 1 million people were wiped out, and over 500,000 females were raped. That was a horrific time for that country in 94, and that's not too long ago. $30-some years ago, I guess. Wow, time does fly. I didn't think it was just yesterday. Anyway, from Rwanda, we go up to North Africa on the coast, on the west side, to the country of Liberia. And that guy, his name is Archie, and he's texted in several times, and he works in the scout program with girls and boys. And so he's been very much interested in CPS, how we handle it in the United States. Then over in Europe, I have in England, Scotland, and Wales, the United Kingdom, and then Denmark and Sweden. Across the pond in North America, I've had Canada. And I've had all the 50 states, including Alaska and Maine, all in Washington, D.C. It's been over 500 some people I've talked to, and they all have something in common. CPS is corrupt. 99% is corrupt. I've talked to social workers, two of them, in fact. One was from Maryland, talked for 40 minutes, nice social worker, but couldn't believe what I was saying. Another social worker was a third party that was hired out by CPS, and she did agree with me about the awful things that CPS does. And when I say the word CPS, I'm referring to the child protection system. Every state will have different acronyms or different names for they call their child protection system. But it's tragedy that all of you have to go through this. It really is. It's really tragedy that you have to go through all this. And hello there from Minus D. Hello there and welcome, Minus D. Now, when you are typing in about your comment, your question, or if you phone call, it's important that you're complete with your CPS case. It helps me so I don't play around of ping pong ball. Not that I don't mind ping pong ball, but it takes a lot of time. If I ask you a question, you answer. Then I ask you another question, you answer, and it goes back and forth. Try to divide up your case in 3 parts. The first part is, what kind of a family do you have? Is it a husband, wife, a boyfriend, girlfriend, lovers, a partnership? Is it single parents? Are both parents still involved? Where are the kids? Are they young, old? the ages, the sexes, and are they kids with the same father and mother? Are there different mothers or different fathers? And are both parties still involved? It's been proven that the best parents are the biological parents. Then the next part is what were the allegations? Were they neglect or abuse? And a little bit more detail on the neglect and abuse. And the next part is how were the children taken? Did you give them up? Did they come to your home and take them from you? Were they in extreme danger that they had to be taken? Did they have a warrant? Did you let them in the house? Did you talk to them or the police? So it's important you help say all this in your spiel to me. And then lastly, is that where you at on your case? Are you at the beginning, the middle, the end? So that way I can help you. So whether you text in or call in, please be complete with your CPS case. Now, a third way of interacting with this podcast is you can come on and be a guest on my podcast. To be a guest is not very hard. All you have to do is contact my show producer. Her name is Grace. She works hard behind the scenes. And she will, and I thank her for that, and she will do your best to get you on. All you have to do is send her an email. You first pick the show times. I'm on 14 times a week, twice a day, 7 days a week. I'm on in the morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time, except for Sunday. I come on at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now this week, I'm going to go to the seminar, so my show time starts at 9:45. Because I have to leave the show at 10:45. So I start my show instead of at 10 at 9:45, 15 minutes early. And then the evening I'm on at 7 o'clock for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time. That is 7 days a week, 14 shows. So all you have to do is pick out one of them you'd like to be a guest on. You have 14 things to pick from. You can be on there Friday night, Friday morning, Wednesday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, etc. And I'd love to have you as a guest. Now, to email Grace, it's at grace@vincentwdavis.com. Grace@vincentwdavis.com. Grace@vincentdavis.com. And she will give you the link and tell you what to do on the show. There's no eating or smoking on the show, and we don't like to use names of judges or children or social workers or attorneys there. And she'll tell you, what to say and what not to say and so forth. You're really helpful. So please join me as guests. Now, a fourth way is to call me. And my phone number is 626-698-0990. That's my office phone number, and I answer it between my show hours. If I don't answer, that means I'm not on. And, you can leave a message, but I will message you back that I can only talk during my show times. So those are the four ways: being just in the room, making comments, being a guest, or calling in. So the phone is live now, and you please call in if you have anything you'd like to discuss, comment, or say. Wow, right on cue. Hello, Bob Pace. Welcome.
Hello, old friend. How are you there?
I'm sorry, who's this I'm speaking to?
True.
Oh, hi, True. Is that your first name or last name?
Oh no, that's my profile name. My name is Bell.
Dell, Dell?
No. Like Bell Kilmer. B is in Victor, A L.
Oh, Vel. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's
Welcome,
okay.
Vel. And what part of the world are you from? What city, state, or country are you from?
Oh, we've talked numerous times. I'm from Washington.
Okay, but you must have used a different name.
Oh no, Truth Movement.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not know that True was connected to the Truth Movement.
Well, that other one is but my reason for calling is I had a surprise visit the other day, and I did put a link there, right there. You can see it on your page, right? And if you could share that kindly, not only we're getting a whole lot of traction, but that being said, my interaction with these wonderful people, and they're not wonderful, they're straight, conniving, and evil, right? I run an establishment, right? So these people show up looking for somebody in particular, and I'm like, hey, who are you guys? And they're like, don't worry about it. I'm like, this is my place. I go, who are you looking for? They're like, we don't have to tell you nothing. I go, well, then kindly leave my property. Right? So they leave my property, right? Guess what they do?
What do they do?
They go get the police.
Well, what can the police do?
That was my whole questioning there, you know? I mean, I told CPS that the people they were looking for did not. Well, actually, they wouldn't even really let me have that, but they came over with bad attitude. I mean, they were disrespectful. This is private property, and I mean, it's weird how they do not know the difference in private property and public property. But long story short, I trespassed them, right? And they come back, right? And the cop asked my wife if so and so lived. I mean, they were trying to walk right into my place. You know what I mean? Luckily,
okay.
they know better.
Yeah. Why do you open the door to the police, or why do you open the door, period, to anybody?
Because I'm a businessman. I run a motel.
Okay, I did not know that you ran a motel. So.
Yeah, no, but here's the fun part, right? Go ahead. You ask my question, I will answer.
Well, I hear this time all the time that people open the door, and there's been 2 people recently shot and killed on the spot for opening the door. And one was a black Air Force veteran in Gainesville, Florida, 23 years old, on May 3rd. And he opened the door, and the sheriff there fired 5 shots point blank, and he was dead. He died on FaceTime talking to his girlfriend. That cop was fired a week later. And I don't know what the case is going now. The other one was a black lady.
That just happened, yes. But, I mean, see, that's getting into the really, we cannot, as citizens, get drawn into the conspiratorial acts of our government. All we can do is file suit and bring to light the bad character, because it's not anything all doctors are bad. Even the profession's great. You know, we need doctors in our life, do we not?
Yes, we do.
We don't need them to go beyond. We don't need them to go beyond that scope. They're just supposed to make sure that you're well.
Yeah.
It's not their job to mentally check you. I mean, and if they are, then they should do it to Donald Trump too. We're getting away from that part.
Hold on one second, Phil. Hold on, Phil. I have another listener came in the room. Her name is Faye. She's from Richmond, Kentucky, and she's a single mom trying to get guardianship of her 23-year-old son who's special needs. And she has a couple questions. First, she says, I hope everyone's having a blessed night. The second question is, if you don't open the door, sometimes police will burst in your house. Yeah, sometimes they would burst in your house, but then if they get prosecuted, you didn't get them in for illegal entry. There's got to be a reason. They got to have 3 ways to come in your house. 1, you give them permission to. 2, there's domestic violence going on and people are fighting and the child is in danger with that, or the child is being slammed against them, that's extreme. Yes, the police can burst in. The third way is a warrant. So if they break the door in without a warrant, without there being an extreme case, or you didn't give permission, they can be sued. Now I know it's terrible because you have to hire an attorney for that. But Faye, um, uh, they may or may not burst in the house. If I hear the door ring, I don't answer it. I'd be quiet, turn things down. I normally don't do. And I know that they lie. Now, Faye asked me, Vel, see, Faye, Vel is a motel owner up in Washington, and he can't really hide from the police because he runs a business. So um, she's asking, can you speak up a little bit louder, Vel? Can you speak up a little bit louder, Vel?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you. I'm trying to use my speakerphone, but I don't seem to have a very good.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better. That is much better. I'm trying to have it so our listeners can hear you. Okay.
Yes.
The balls.
When it comes to forced entry, I mean, you said it. You said it in a nutshell. That being said, like you asked me, why did I open the door? But because I'm in a different situation than most. I know my rights. I mean, I fundamentally know my rights, and I think everybody should take a crash course and learn the right. But getting away from that, never answer questions. I mean, always tell them, and I'm being facetious in this. Tell them about Santa Claus. If they ask you a question, ask them a question about Santa Claus. If they start getting frustrated, it's okay. You want them to get frustrated. That's why you record it. Because when you go into court and they're trying to run malarkey on you, and what legal right did they have to ask you any question minus a search warrant, some kind of premise to do it, to investigate you? You do not have to help them investigate you. But they're so convoluted, and they prey upon our ignorance that we don't know our rights, and that we should never talk to them, period. It doesn't matter, just say no and then leave it at that. But most people, they get roped into fighting this fight with them, and all they're doing is using it as a baseline. I mean, I went to the Supreme Court. I mean, everything I said to them, they manipulated and said differently. But I mean, and it came down to hearsay. I mean, my case got overturned and reversed. I mean, they made a new statute based on what they did to me. Hearsay cannot be used for taking a child. It's not allowed. But unfortunately, they've been doing it for so long because nobody fought them. I did.
Well, I'm glad you did, Phil.
The police showed up at my house. I mean, literally, the guy kept threatening me. He's like, and I'm like, why do I have to talk to you? I go, I'm not under arrest. I go, I've asked you numerous times to leave the property. And he's like, but don't you care about the child? I go, I don't care. I go, it's not that. You guys are not good people. You guys have no business being here. And they can't force me to ask questions. They can't ask me questions and expect me to have to answer them. Don't.
No, in fact, an easy way to diffuse it, as I tell people, is say time out to them. I need to talk to my attorney before we go any further. It's my constitutional rights that I have legal representation while I'm being interrogated. And so I'll get back to you. What is your badge number, officer? Or social worker, can I see your ID and get your name? And the reason why I tell you need to see their ID or their badge number is because police and social workers will lie about their name. And you'll say, well, Officer Trooper was here. And then when you further up do the complaint, they say, we don't have Officer Trooper working for us. Or the social worker, Beth, So that's why it's important. But a timeout, just hey, I need a timeout. It's my constitutional rights for legal representation. I mean, Val, what do you
fundamentally knowing your rights? I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, if you do not know how to talk to them, you should never talk to them. I mean, and you know, you've been there. They will manipulate you every which way. And I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, like I told these cops, I asked them to leave. This is private property. They had no authority on this property. It would. I mean, the guy. He said, I had no obligation. I can't hit him. I can't attack him. I can't make him. Anybody else? Anybody else? You know what I mean? I could have pushed them off the property. Them, you know, and he didn't even have a legitimate reason to say why he was there. I mean, he came in and said he was looking for somebody, but the minute I stated to him, these people do not live here, that was the end of it. And when I asked them to leave my property, they had no reason to be on this property, right? They don't get to investigate on this property, minus a warrant.
Or there's domestic violence happening. You know, like someone's fighting with a gun or fighting with a knife or slamming someone against the wall.
But even in that, if that was happening, they wouldn't stop and ask questions. If they had probable cause for reason, they're gonna jump. Period. Stop.
Yep, I agree.
You know what I mean? So if they have a legitimate reason, believe me, they're not gonna wait for a warrant. They're gonna just do what they're allowed to do under the law. That's why they didn't try. I mean, he called back up, and his backup showed up. Like I said, you know, you can go to my YouTube channel and see the whole video. And the reason I say that is the way I handled them. I mean, they showed up. They tried to be, you know, like what? I never answered any questions for them. I just kept saying, "Look, go away. That's it. You're only." They weren't looking for me. They were looking for somebody else. You know, and you know what they did? They splintered. And I mean, this poor person is now on the run. He had a full-time job working at a gas station across the street from my motel. Now he's on the run with his child, and his girlfriend, and their two children, right? Where they were somewhat stable, right? But they want to intervene. Now, you know what happened? These people are now officially running. They never put an Amber Alert out for them, right? But was that their intent? Was that CPS's intent? That, you know what, if you make them run, they're going to have to hole up somewhere, and that's when we'll get them. You know, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So what is it tonight you like to talk about? Your case or something else?
Well, no, not necessarily my case, but what we as a people do and how we rectify what's been broken. And I think the only way we can rectify what's been broken is to do exactly what I did. And I'm not trying to. No, I am. I'm trying to give myself credit for the fact that I withstood them. I mean, I went all the way to the Supreme Court. I mean, you could. I mean, I talked to Vince on that. Unfortunately, you know, I don't have the 50 grand. But you know what? Actually, I'm coming up with the 50 grand because that's the whole purpose, you know. I mean, whether it be divine inspiration from God or whatever. My children, like yours, were abducted for 2 years. That being said, unlike most people, I did absolutely nothing for them. Nothing. And they accused me of everything. And you know what I kept telling them? And I mean, whether it be in court, whether it be at those shared plan family meetings, whether we went to a doctor's office, it's like everything will be recorded. I got everything recorded. And they kept trying to tell me it was against the law. And I'm like, well, look, guy, arrest me. I mean, I was recording in open court. And I mean, I'm just like, you know what? You got to arrest me. I got nothing to lose. You took everything that mattered to you. I go, why should I be free running around? You put me in jail, man. It'll make me feel better. At least I knew. But they wouldn't arrest me. Right? That being said,
well, I think if you tell them you're recording, I think you're allowed to record people if you tell them up front that you're being recorded.
It's not. I think it is. It's an absolute guarantee. I mean, it's a guarantee. It's protected by the Constitution, your First Amendment.
Because when you make phone calls, you know, when you make phone calls, you hear all the time from businesses that your phone conversation is being recorded for construction purposes or for feedback, whatever it is. So what I do when I hear that kind of message on a call, I said, "You're being recorded by me," and they don't like that, and they hang up. They hang up so quick. Reverse psychology helps with them, Val. Now, Faye says something here. Faye, I just posted her comment. She says, Faye from Richmond, Kentucky says, "Oh, they fake like they're getting a warrant, then talk their way in by getting your family members to just let them in your place, even though you told them no and asked them to come back with a warrant." Now, Faye had a case in Richmond, Kentucky, where the mom had her children, and she told the police, "You're not coming in the house." But her mom said, "Oh yeah, they can come in the house." And so, that's what happened there. So, it's the number one step is lock your door. And if you hear a knock at the door, I don't answer it.
Don't answer it.
Now, if you have a certain ring or a certain knock code, you can tell people that want to come and visit you, knock twice, then knock 3 times, or ring the bell once and then ring the bell 3 times. But it's silly. But
can I be honest on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, when it comes to it, and you know what I'm going to say here, it's hurtful and crazy as it's going to sound. Sometimes you got to let them do what they're going to do, and then refuse. And yes, it's a long, drawn-out process, right? But I know this for a fact. Every time you submit to anything they ask you to go see a doctor, you should tell them no, emphatically no. And when your lawyer tries to tell you, just go no. And I'm telling you, if a lawyer tells you to go see a head doctor, they are not in the market to help us out. It's all about money to them. It's all about the program. You know how long the programs are? So whether you take the program or you refuse to help them, it's still going to take you 2 years. Now,
I say it's a minimum. I say it's a minimum of 3 years because of all the parenting classes, the programs you have to take. Now, Christina just texted in a comment. Christina Reynoso, who's from New Mexico, and she used to be in San Bernardino, California, and Nevada. Now, Christina Reynoso says, "What if a P test?" Now, I don't know what you mean by a P test, but you don't need to take a P test. You don't have to take a P test. In fact, these are my answers with child protection system. You just say yes, no answers, and you do your timeout that you have to speak to your attorney, and you're done with them. You don't have to talk to them. It's yes, no, and what is your name? And we'll get back to you as soon as I talk to my attorney. You may not have an attorney, but it's a good timeout. And Faye says the mother let the house in. They're all behind a gate, and the police came into their yard. It's ridiculous. That's what Faye says. And then Christina Reynoso from New Mexico said, "Them pounding on the door, I don't think it was for a test. Even so, she pounded very hard. So open it." Well, Christina, a guy named Roger, a black veteran, heard the door several times being pounded by a sheriff. He opened the door. Guess what? He's dead. I don't know how I have to emphasize you. It isn't safe to open doors anymore. There's too many weirdos out there. And the policemen are stupid because if they stand in front of the door, they can be shot. The best way to get in a home, respect domestic violence, is that you announce who you are in a friendly voice. You say, "Hello, this is Sheriff Gaines from Pocadona, and I suspect there's domestic violence. A call has been made. Is anybody in the home?" And they usually will say one person. Once you diffuse and get talking like that, then they could say further, he'll get to the side of the door jamb, not in front. He'll tell the person inside, please unlock the door, lay face down. If you have a weapon, put it to your side, and then he can come in, assess the situation, You told him inside to put his hands behind his head, so you handcuffs him, and then he can look around the apartment or the house for anybody else. So it's all how you handle or diffuse the problem. So no matter how hard they pound on the door, don't open it. I know it's intimidating. That's why they do it. But a policeman can be killed as easy as you could be, Christina. So don't open the door. Now, Faye says something further now. Faye says, no, you don't have to do a P test for CPS unless a judge has ordered it. Remember, Christina, a judge has to order it.
And even if the judge orders it, you can still refuse it.
All right. And what grounds are you doing that?
It's a civil case. It's civil.
Right.
So
It's not a criminal case.
right?
Yeah, you're right. And you're speaking away from the phone. You need to come back to your phone there, Vel.
No, what I'm saying is, in a civil case, you never have to take them. They can court order you to take it, and you can say no. They're not going to arrest you. It's a civil matter, right? They're going to try to. But that being said, it's coming down to the long game. I mean, it's how you're going to play it.
Right. Well, people have to understand. People have to understand. There's two types of courts, really. There's criminal court, and there's probably other courts there, and then there's dependency court, family court. And in family and court and that thing, they don't do criminal acts there. That's done in criminal court. So to take a P test, even if it's ordered by the judge in dependency court, you don't have to honor it. I agree with you there.
And that's when you make your lawyer, and when you challenge it. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand the power of an appeal. I mean, on any kind of decision like that, I mean, if they try to order you to do something, you get to appeal to their high, because most of them they're like doctor's assistants. They're not real judges, most of them, at the low levels. They're more of a commissioner, and then they go up to a district court, and that's where it gets reviewed. But most of the time, those district courts just sign off on anything that the commissioner signs. And it's a scary thing. I mean, they violate our rights left and right. I mean, they have to have some kind of baseline premise. Without, like if you told them you're a drug addict, then yeah, they could probably push the issue. They still can't make you do it. But if you gave them that information, then they can go to court and justify it. But if they're just going on a fishing expedition, they don't get to use AIDS. In the best interest of the child, it does not work their way. There has to be a legitimate reason for them to do a psychological evaluation. If they're going to want to do any of those, they got to have legitimate reason. They can't just go on a fishing expedition, and that's what they're doing. They throw all these barrage of tests at you, hoping that something's safe. If you say no to all of them, which is your fundamental right to do, you usually get away. You get out way quicker. So when you go take those tests, they're rigged, and we're always going to show lacking somewhere. Oh, he needs help here, or they need help there.
Okay, Vel, I have 3 more comments that Faye's made. First one, you do not have to take a P test on CPS commands unless a judge has court ordered it. Then you can go get your own. Do not use CPS tests, P tests. Further, Faye says, no, she says, they will not return your kids if you don't test, which is true. They don't. This is the problem. Not every state or every county is the same. Yes, if a judge ordered it, they will not return your kids. So what she's saying, if you refuse to take a court-ordered drug test, and she does not say to take their test, take your own, they will not return your kids. The problem is, and this is the biggest problem that everybody should recognize, child protection system are professional child kidnappers. And I'm saying that because there's 8 social workers in Prescott, Arizona that wore that stencil on the front of their pink t-shirts. They're professional child kidnappers. And they will do whatever they want to. You see, once they got your kids, you can't get them back. You can't muscle in and try to take them back. The ideal is you don't want to surrender to them and you don't want to surrender your kids. So you only have a couple things you can do. If you're going to get involved with Child Protective Services, right away put the kids in another state with some of your family members. Get the kids away from that state. Second of all, don't cooperate with them. Don't answer the door. Don't give them anything. Get an attorney. And I know that part is really hard because of the expense. And I would like to put a pitch in for my attorney, Vincent Davis, who produces this podcast, that he'll do a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. That is 30 minutes for $60. He'll talk about your case. If you want to hire him, he'll talk about his retainer. But at least you can talk to an attorney for $60. I don't know of any other attorneys you can talk to for $60. Most of them are $300 to $600 or $1,000. So I would definitely do that. Now, Vel, who is minus D, is the Truth Movement. And so he has to go to work. So thank you, Vel, for talking on minus D. It was interesting what you had to say from Washington. So the Truth Movement and minus D are the same person. Now, Faye says another comment. Faye says he used to fake paid psychos docs to phony diagnostic you, and if you do not do your own psychiatrist evaluation or test, it'll need to be a court approved and hold on and hold an MD or PhD. What Faye says. Christina says, my appeal attorney wife was friends with CPS, who worked in some of the small building. So Christina, your appeals attorney's wife was friends with CPS, who worked in the same small building. You have to be careful because people talk, and it sounds like your attorney's wife, who should not be discussing what you and your attorneys are talking about because you have appeal going. And that is bad, Christina. I'm so sorry to hear that. And Faye says that is common. Yes, there are friends, aunts and uncles, relatives that are in cahoots. Just like this second case of a social worker that CPS has pedophiles. And the pedophiles was recently discovered by a mother whose daughter came home after she was interviewed at school by alleged CPS worker as a pedophile that she was required to take off her clothes. She was 13 years old, and she was traumatized by being a 13-year-old being nude in front of a strange man who proposed that he was an investigator. So, yes. And then what happened is that man was, when the mother called to complain to CPS, that man was fired. But a friend of his who had known him since childhood turned things around and made the mother accuse molesting her 15-year-old son. So I know behind the scenes that people do awful things. There's another girl, Shannon, who's a Cherokee in Oklahoma, says that the executive director of the Cherokee Nation tribe of 7,700 miles is also the Attorney General of Oklahoma. And there's a lot of bad doing in there. So, there's crooks everywhere. There's crooks everywhere. And Faye says that's common, Christina. That is common. Okay, well, the Truth Movement, minus D, Vel had to leave the room. He had to leave the room. So, I want to give a pitch for my attorney. You can reach him at 888-888-6582. Make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you speak to him, make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. Also, you can book a discounted Zoom consultation with attorney Vincent Davis for 30 minutes, care of Bob Pace. Now you go here to https colon slash forward slash candidly.com forward slash apps appts Vincent W. Davis forward slash Bob Pace. And that'll take us to his appointment book. So please call Mr. Davis. I thank him for all he does. He is a loving man and he will help you. He has his own podcast. He's a real attorney. He has 35 years of experience. He's a trial attorney. He's fought CPS and he's won cases and got the children back. He's also done civil lawsuits. And so, with that being said, he's the man. He's the person who does all the states, Northern California. He works primarily out of Southern California, but he will take on any case. His fee is set on the complexity, how long the case has been going on, and the location. When he leaves Southern California, he needs transportation, ground and air transportation. Plus, he needs accommodation where he's staying. And also the food he has to eat there because he's eating out. He's not able to eat at home. So with that being said, that is tacked on with a retainer. But please give him a call or go to his website. Now the phone is open. I can take any more calls. We have about 15 minutes left before I have to close our shop down. And but this has been interesting. I'm glad we had the Truth Movement Minus D on the show. He's has his business running a hotel in Washington. He had a case where they took his children, but he was telling some interesting things that if you're at a place of business, you have to understand CPS and the police will try to get you at your business or at your home or at the hospital. Now, rule number 3, I've talked a little bit about it. Rule number 3 is you don't let them in your home. You don't talk to them, and you certainly don't let them take your children. There's only 3 ways to get in your home. And I've already repeated myself twice. But one is the only way to get in is if you give them permission or a relative gives you permission. Let's say you're outside and someone in the yard says, "Oh, come on in, officer, come on in, CPS." So you need to instruct your family, never open the door or let someone in from the police or CPS in. Because if you do, that's one of the ways they're going to get in, and they're going to take advantage of that situation. Secondly, they can come in if there's domestic violence going on. If someone's hitting each other using weapons like guns or knives, there's violence going on, and the child is being slammed against the wall or in danger, extreme danger, they can come in the home to protect the child. Now, the third way is a warrant. And that warrant's got to be an official piece of paper that's signed by a judge with a wet signature that has an embossed stamp that you can feel when you touch the paper. The warrant's got to be very explicit. It's got to say who the warrant is to. If both parents' names will be on there. Also, the children's names will be on there. Then the allegations will be listed. And then the address of where this investigation will take place and the date and time. They have to have a prescribed date and time. Further, they have to instruction what will happen when they come there. They'll pick up the child or they'll talk to you or anything like that. So what you do is those are only 3 ways to get in the home. Those are only 3 ways to get in the home. So don't let them in. Don't talk to them because everything you say will be used against you. A lot of us, including myself, loves to talk, and that's a mistake I did. So don't let them in and don't let them talk to you. Sorry for the background noise. It seems like no matter where I do my podcast, I live in an apartment and there's no respect for people who live in apartments. The guy loves to play his guitar in his garage and it's right to the back of my wall. Wow. Got a little excited here, Faye. So we're talking about my rule number 3. And that's entering the home. But as I was saying, is don't forget, they can come to the hospitals. You may be going to the hospital for urgent care or the emergency room because something wrong with your child. There are social workers that work there. Be careful of them. They will try to take your children. Don't give them to them. They have to have a warrant. They cannot take your children if they're there. Also, if you're pregnant and you're going to have your baby, again, don't let them take your baby. They will try to. They'll take a baby fresh out of the womb. That's how bad they are. You tell the medical staff to get them out of your room. Or when you make arrangements, you tell them who can enter the room, who can be in that room with you. Okay. I'm behind in my comments. I'm sorry because uh, I thought they automatically scroll down, but you have to do it by hand. Um, okay, what is rule number 5? What is rule number 5? I need to know what is rule number 5, Faye, if you can tell me. Um, Faye says add rule number 5. Um, CPS showed up with the cops and took the kids. Well, that's only because you let them take the kids. That's only because you let them take the kids. That's because you let the door open. You went along with them. Did they have a warrant, Christina? And Christina, 2 months after my son told BOP dad, heard him, never had, we've been in court. The next day, they're living with whom they accuse of being vile. Oh, boy. I'm sorry, Christina. But you really need an attorney. You need to speak to an attorney. These mistakes you're making are really hurting you. What is my rule number 5 to add there? See, I've talked about rule number 1 and number 5 here. Let me see here. They had my son in the back seat of the van. Christina, how did they get your son in the back seat of your van if your son was in your house with the door closed? And Faye, what is rule number 5? Oh, yes, 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 yes. That's a good one, Faye. Faye says a good rule number 5 is do not delay getting your child's birth certificate and social security card, your school files, medical files, including mental health, and keep these and do not let CPS have these. Those documents must maintain with you. You must have your child's certificate and social security card, school files, medical files. It's like when I was being falsely accused, my kids were in school, I whipped out the grade reports and showed them how well they're doing in school. So it's very important that rule number 5, I like that, Faye. Faye's rule number 5, I'll add that on there. I'll add there. Now, Christina said they had their son in the back seat of the van from school. What did your son do at school to be put in the van of CPS or police, Christina? I probably forgot. You probably told me that. You probably told that, Christina. Okay, I've talked about rule 3. I said rule 5. Rule 4, by the way, is do research on CPS. Spend 40 to 60 hours to find everything you know about CPS in your county, in the place where your kid was taken. You need to research it because your answers are there. It's the power of the internet is amazing. Everything you want to know is there. Okay, you can tell me later. It's okay, Christina. I'm not trying to press you. I understand, Christina. You can tell me later. It's frustrating for all you guys. Christina has been a long time in this room, as well as Faye. And they relive everything every day they come to my room. And I really appreciate having Faye and Christina Reynoso in my room. That's really sweet of them. They're beautiful people. All of you are beautiful people. And I wish I had a magic wand that could make it go away. Faye further says, yes, CPS will put a hold on these files so you can't pull them out by putting a freeze on them to deny you access so they can go through these records and find things to manipulate you to use against you. You're so right. They do a lot of that stuff. It's amazing at the time they spend and everything. The time they spend. Okay, we're 5 minutes left into the show. I got to end it at 8 o'clock. And um, well, thank you, Christina. You all are beautiful people. And as I say, I know what you're going through. Every day I relive where my daughter was taken from us parents for revenge because a social worker, and this is what I don't understand social workers. In California, social workers that work in the CPS, the Child Protection System, which by the way is called CPS in California, Child Protection Services. My daughter was told to, at age 12, by a social worker as retaliation for the social worker lying on the stand. She had, my wife's sister and husband was trying to take our child away from us. And our attorney, Vincent Davis, asked the social worker on the stand, has there been any domestic violence with my wife's sister and husband? And the social worker said, oh no, they're perfect parents, really good. Well, he went to his briefcase, pulled out a folder that's an inch thick, and all these police reports. And I'm not talking 10 or 15, I'm talking about hundreds of them, of calling out of all the times they fought and all the times they had problems. So she lied on the stand, and she perjured herself, and she could be sued. But I don't have a $50,000 retainer to hire an attorney and sue her. But she could be sued. Well, she retaliated. She said to our daughter, who was 12 at the time, you're going to emancipate from your parents. That means you're going to divorce from your mom, your dad, her grandparents, her brothers, her aunts, uncles, and cousins. You're going to change your name. You're going to seal your birth certificate, and you're going to be adopted in foster care. Now, who knows that at age 12? Who knows that at age 12? So, I know it's really hard because my daughter is 22 now. And I still don't see her. I haven't seen her since she's 12. And that's a hard thing. You know, as I told you earlier, I'm a father of 6 children, 3 older children and 3 younger children. And our 3 older children, since this incident happened, they weren't involved, but they've turned a cold shoulder on because the relatives are brainwashed, people thinking we're awful parents. And I did get my 2 boys back thanks to Mr. Davis. But my daughter, I have not got back. My son still sees her, but I really miss her every day there. Christina says, I guess they took the kids after they ignored my kids' reports 2 months prior. Wow, Christina, that is tough there. Okay, rule number 1. Oh, rule number 2, the only one I didn't touch, was about keeping track of your paperwork. Get a notebook, 8.5 by 11 inches with 3 rings, 6 inches thick. Stuff it full of college ruled notebook paper. Put dividers in there, 10, 15, 20 dividers. Organize your paperwork. Have a section for incidents and start a log with incidents. Put down the date, the time, the location, and who was involved. Then describe the incident, a sentence or 2, and then do the outcome. If you don't know the outcome, leave a blank space, come back later. Then skip a couple lines, do the next incident, the next incident. And soon, a year from now or 2 years from now, okay, it's now time for me to call it over, and it's 8 o'clock almost, and I want to thank you all for listening. I'll see you tomorrow at 9:45. By the way, I'm on early tomorrow, 9:45. I have a seminar at 10:45. So the show tomorrow is 9:45 to 10:45. And I really care about you. And Happy Feet, thank you. I'm sorry you came at the tail of the show, but I'm glad to see Happy Feet. Happy Feet's from Arizona. So thank you, Happy Feet. Christina Reynoso from New Mexico. Faye's from Richmond, Kentucky. We've had, who else have we had in this room? We've had the Truth Movement, who goes by Minus D. That's Vel. He's from Washington State. He's a hotel owner. And he's been fighting CPS for a long time. And his Minus D is his other name on the Facebook. So God bless y'all. Keep fighting for your kids. And this is Bob Pace signing.